ladies and gentlemen. Your attention, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Box Hill Golf Club. Attention. Welcome, guys. Thanks for all coming along today. 68 years since that day we all stood in the quadrangle at Box Hill Boys High School. I didn't realise how fortunate we were to be at probably the state's best high school. They built back in the 1930s it was, state of the art, no expenses spared. It was built during the worst part of the Depression, surprisingly, but a beautiful two-storey building in a prestige position there on Whitehorse Road. Adjacent sporting grounds, we had a science room, a chemistry room, metal workshops, Lloyd woodworking workshops, all equipped like an old English public school it was. We had to wear a suit to go there, grey suit and a cap. And God help anybody that was caught on the streets of Box Hill without their cap by Mr. Scow. Mr. Lyons was an old man he was the vice principal. He must have been about 53 years of age. He was a spokesman or the henchman for Cuthbert Moody, who his voice was very weak because he'd been gassed during the war and he was unable to speak publicly to us. That Tiger Lyons was the mouthpiece and he was the one we lived in fear of. I've got a few apologies here before we go any further, people that were unable to be with us today. So the first one's a rather sad one because it's from the family of Ken Vanslow. Ken passed away just last month, and after a long illness actually. I went to state school with Ken Vanslow. He was a laconic, tall kind of a guy. He used to always sit up the back. One day the teacher yelled at him, "Vanslow, what are you doing?" And he stood up slowly and he said, "Just mucking around, sir." And the teacher was amused by his candour and he must have went back to the staff room and told the other teachers. And from that day on, he was known as Just Mucking Around Vanslow. We'll miss him though, and we send our condolences to his family. Ken and Veronica Olsen, another one. Ken's come to all our previous reunions, but he's always had a problem with heart failure. And sadly, this year his wife's been diagnosed with the same. She used to be his driver. She used to bring him along because he was unable to drive himself. The doctors told her that she's not to be involved in any strenuous or exciting activities. So I don't know if today's events but she's unable to drive, Ken, so we're going to miss their smiling faces here today. Ted Finney, I don't know if you remember Ted Finney, he lives up in Dubbo now. He said he would love to have been with us, but he's involved on a farm and the drought has affected them badly. And their sheep are lambing at the moment and they're hand feeding them with hay. And he said he simply couldn't get away to be here, but he wishes us all the best. Case Smith lives up in Noosa, a bit far for Case to come this time. He did come down last time though. Philip Ellsbury. Philip is one of those guys that isn't into reunions. He said, "Lindsay, please wish the guys all the best, but cross me off the list." I can relate to this because my wife, my lovely wife Irene, is not into school reunions either. She doesn't even go to her own. But she said she would make a concession and come along today if she could be of some use. So we've nominated her as the treasurer and she's going to be coming around taking some more photographs later, so give her a big smile. Who else is there? Eric Wilkinson. He was hoping to come down from Bendigo today, but there's some illness in his family and he's unable to make it. Eric had a bit of fame a little while back when he rediscovered the leadbeater possum. All the experts had told us the leadbeater possum was extinct. Up near Marysville one day he discovered one and it set the authorities buzzing. They now have a leadbeaters preservation society running and that's his 5 minutes of fame. Another person with 5 minutes of fame is John Pasquarelli. John's never been to any of our reunions, but he's told us he's looking forward to the next one. I said, well, John, I've got news for you. I don't think that's going to happen. But John had his 5 minutes of fame when he was advisor to Pauline Hanson. Remember that Pauline Hanson's maiden speech to the Parliament? John Pasquarelli wrote that, and things went pear-shaped immediately after they fell out. She sacked him and all ended in tears.
In his earlier life,
John went off to New Guinea as a patrol officer up there, and he learnt some of the dialects and languages of the natives, and he got himself elected to the Assembly, Papua New Guinea Assembly, and he was there for 4 years. He rang me today to say, today he'll be in Manila. I said, what on earth are you doing in Manila? He said, I'm getting new teeth. I said, okay. He's 82 years of age and looking after my view. I said, okay, John, we'll give you a message to the guys. Ralph Black said he's unable to be with us today. No reason. Ian Williams. Ian's recently lost his wife and he's not in the mood for celebrating much at the moment. We understand that. Neil Hewitt hasn't shown up today, which is a bit of a mystery because he said he was coming. So I hope he's okay. Jeff Wilson. I don't know if you remember Jeff's contribution to our school memoirs, and it makes a very good read, but it's a master of understatement. The man is so clever and he's had such achievements in his life. I had to go to Wikipedia to really find out a bit more about Jeff. Jeff's up in Queensland with his wife today. It's her birthday and I think they're up there with relatives celebrating that. But he's actually Professor Jeffrey Wilson, AM. He was Vice Chancellor of the University in Central Queensland for 5 years. 8 years he was Vice Chancellor of Deakin University here, which he had a lot to do with the establishment of in the early days. Just incidentally, he's a Professor of Nuclear Physics and he's lectured at Oxford and Berlin. He was at the Royal Military Academy in Duntroon. He was the rector of their school up there for a while. A master and a modest man, a remarkable man. We're missing him today. That's about the lot as far as the apologies go. Thinking back again to that day, one more. Oh, Malcolm Agnew was coming, and something happened with the guide. Oh, he trains guide dogs, and one of them's become ill. Now, how's that for a good excuse? Yeah, Malcolm really did intend to be with us today. Yeah, I was thinking back to that day in the quadrangle at Box Hill Boys High School. Mr. Lyons addressed us. Tiger Lyons, you'll all... Oh, I've got a picture of it just to remind you. So we're all familiar with who I'm talking about. Remember that face coming along? You used to come along the corridors and look into the classrooms to see if you were behaving. And if you weren't behaving, you got a message to go to his office. Well, I got a message to go to his office. Tiger found out that I was leaving end of year 3. I wasn't into the academic life. I wanted to go into a technical field, radio, television. So I decided to leave the end of year 3. Tiger called me into his office and he said, McCurdy, you're leaving us. I said, yes. He said, where are you going to work? Oh, I said, I haven't actually arranged a job yet. He said, you haven't arranged a job and you're leaving? He just pulled his telephone down off the wall and he dialed a number. Mr. Clark, he said, I've got a young boy here who's leaving the school, he needs a job. He didn't tell me where the job was. Anyway, he hung up, he handed me a bit of white paper. He said, report Monday morning in Melbourne, Lonsdale Street, Melbourne, and ask for Mr. Clark. So I front up there, and it's a wholesale hardware business. Edward Duckett and Sons, an old hardware business. I go in, ask for Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark sits me down. He said, Mr. Lyons has sent you from the Box Hill Boys High School. I said, yeah, that's right. He said, you're hired. He said, what would you like us to pay you? There was no talk about whether you'd like to work in wholesale hardware or... And I was wet behind the ears. I didn't know what pay rates were for juniors in the wholesale hardware business. I said, I'll leave it to you, Mr. Clark. He said, we'll pay you £4 a week, but we'll pay the income tax. So you'll get £4 clear in your pocket every week. I said, well, that sounds a good deal, Mr. Clark. So when do I start? He said, you start tomorrow morning. So I phoned up tomorrow morning, they put a dust coat on me, and I'm a wholesale hardware salesman on the ground floor. Anyway, I didn't last too long there before I realised that this wasn't going to be my future. And I enrolled in an ICS course, American Correspondence course with radio and television, started studying that, and then I got a job in the city, a radio firm, Central Radio. Luckily, they said to me, you're not starting here unless you take an apprenticeship, which I did, and went on to RMIT and a good career in electronics. So I've got a lot to be thankful for old Tiger for. Oh, I must say, a few years later, I was working as a television repairman, and I got this service call. Mr. Lyons in Blackburn, his television has failed, which is I can remember the address, 3 Wolseley Crescent, Blackburn. So I'm driving there, I'm thinking, I wonder if this is Tiger. Get to the door and knock on the door, and sure enough, a really old man comes through the door this time. He must be about 65. Tiger. And I went in, and in the hall, gallery entrance to his house, a magnificent oil painting of him as a young man in dress military uniform, a strikingly handsome young man, I'd have to say, and he apparently was a captain in the First World War. When we were kids at school, we never... I just thought he was still there. No, he obviously had a previous career. Anyway, while I was fixing his TV, I thought I'll make some small talk. And so, Mr. Lyons, I said, you were a deputy principal back in the day, back at Boxer High School. And he shook his head violently, as though he didn't want to know about it, as though it was an aberration in his life. So I didn't pursue this. I was going to tell him that I was a student, but I got busy and fixed his TV and got out of there. Anyway, that was my experiences with the school. It's good to have our old masters here, Ian Huntington and Bill Pye too. Remarkable that they've chosen to be with us again.
Fine Box Hill town where the road winds down from the hills where the timbermen labour. Old boys in the past built a school to last, each loyal and true to his neighbour. They built her there to stand for square to the blast of time that'll alarm us, and their voices glad raise the call.